So to start, you can put your weights off to the side, and you're just gonna come to stand on your mat and have your feet hip distance underneath you, and just let your arms fall by your sides. And then just take a second here, without changing anything or like trying to find nice alignment or good posture or whatever, just take a second and close your eyes and just scan from the top of your head to your feet. Are your feet internally rotating? Are they externally rotating? Are you putting weight onto the inside or the outside edge? Do your shoulders round forward? Do you feel like your ribs are jutting out or you're tucked under? Where's your head in line with your spine? Is it forward or is it in a nice long line? So we're gonna start from the bottom up. And so first things first, take a second and check in with your feet. Try to find a nice neutral position with your feet where your toes are pointing forward, they're hip distance underneath your hips, not your shoulders. And then you're just gonna check in on the ankles. Are you supinating or pronating? You're just gonna send the weight into the opposite corner, whichever that is. Make sure you have the weight spread evenly across the ball of your foot. And then up to your knees. Are you locking your knees out? If you are, give them a little soft bend. Next to the pelvis, do you have a gentle tuck under where you're like lifting up out of your pelvis? And then to your ribs, are they closed? Are they open? Are they sticking forward and flared? Or are they just, again, like sort of lifting up on top of your pelvis in a nice long line? And then just think gently about externally rotating the upper arms. Don't necessarily think about drawing those shoulders together, but just external rotation and like width across the front of your shoulders. And then bring the tongue gently to the roof of your mouth. And as you do that, feel like someone's just gently pulling your ponytail up towards the ceiling. And then from here, you're gonna nod your chin, and then you're gonna round yourself all the way down. As you come down, bend your knees as much as you need. And then take a second here to sort of hang like a rag doll. You can shift from one side to the other. Keep thinking about that tongue gently being heavy on the roof of your mouth, even as you're dangling. Keep reaching the crown of the head towards the floor. And then from here, you're gonna tuck your tailbone under. Press through the whole foot. Maybe slightly more into the heels as you peel yourself all the way up, finding that nice tall spine where everything is stacked one on top of the other. Tongue comes to the roof of your mouth, just to give you a little bit more lift. Whereas if here you press your tongue to the bottom of your mouth, see if you feel like your chin is starting to feel like it wants to jut forward. Just bring it up, finding that nice alignment. One more time, round all the way down. Again, knees can be nice and soft. This time grab opposite elbow and gently rock from one side to the other. You can add a little bit of rotation here, whatever feels nice. And then pause in the center, let your arms be heavy. And again, peel yourself all the way back up. And then from here, bring your arms wide out to the side. And just have your hands more or less in line with your shoulders or slightly below. And then a little bit in your periphery, so not back behind your shoulders, just slightly forward of them. And then from here, you're gonna reach over to the right. Think that your waist is getting long on both sides. As you reach, maybe you'll get a nice stretch through that left side, and then think like someone's pulling your fingertips over to the left. You still have that length in the left side, and a little stretch in the right. And again, over to the right. Keep reaching, stretching. Both feet are nice and firmly planted on the floor. Over to the left. Reaching through your feet, anchoring into the ground. One more time to the right like this. And then over to the left. And come all the way up tall. Twist to the left. And then from here, you're gonna lift on that right diagonal. And then feel like you're being pulled back to up tall. You're not gonna lean back towards that left side. Pull and reach forward. Think about getting a nice stretch through that low back. And then back. 2 more. And last one. And then coming back to center. Twist over to the right and then reach on that left diagonal. And then feel like someone is pulling you back tall to the right. And then up and reach. Again, root through that right foot now. leg is nice and heavy, think about lifting up and out of your pelvis as you lift and reach. 2 more. Trying to find a little bit more space through the torso. Good, and then come to the center and let the arms float all the way down. Come to stand at the back of your mat and just let your knees be soft. Hinge at the hips, reach your hands down towards the floor here, and then round your spine down over your legs. Bend your knees a little bit more if you need, and then find that nice flat back. And then again, round forward. Try to find that length through the waist. Lengthen, think about reaching the crown of the head away, and then roll all the way down. And then from here, you're gonna start to walk yourself out into a little plank here. And then just drop your knees and sit back onto your heels, reaching your hands forward. Find yourself in a nice downward dog. You can roll your head from one side to the other. That feels nice. You can add a little rock of your whole body. But again here, think about reaching through the sides, creating length. And then gently reach your fingertips a little bit farther away from you. Internally rotate your upper arm. And then think about holding on with your fingertips like your Spider-Man as you externally rotate and find a little bit of space for the ears, the neck, and maybe a little broadening across the upper back. And then again, internally rotate. And externally rotate those arms. Internally rotate as you inhale, externally rotate as you exhale. Really think about wrapping those armpits underneath you. Internally rotate one more time. And last time, externally rotate. Good, and then from here, you're gonna come up into all fours. With your hands right underneath your shoulders, your knees right underneath your hips. You're going to tuck your tailbone under, round your spine up towards the ceiling. And then uncurl your spine, find that nice bit of extension through the whole torso. Your sitting bones are widened, your collarbone widens, and then press the floor away as you round back up towards the ceiling. One more time, round it. And lift up. And from here, find yourself in a nice neutral spine. You have a little bit of softness in the elbows, and you're gonna extend your right leg back behind you, and then bring it over to the inside edge. Bring that left foot slightly out to the side, and then open up to the right. Reach that arm up overhead towards the ceiling, and then keeping that same reach as you keep bringing your arm up overhead. That left arm has a little bit of softness in it, getting a nice stretch through that right side. And then bring your hand down to the floor, rotate back, and then float that right leg up. From here, bend it in underneath you as you round your spine, like you're gonna bring your knee to your nose, and then exhale as you extend, coming into a neutral spine. Round the spine, flex the foot, reach it back behind you as you find neutral spine. And again, round under and reach. Think about creating space through the front of that hip as you extend. 2 more. Last one. Really reach back through the heel. Bring the toes down. Keep reaching back through the heel. Press gently through the hands as you reach back through the heel for a nice calf stretch. And then come down onto the inside edge of that foot. Bring the left foot out to the side. Last time, or one more time, over to the right. And then lift that arm up overhead, stretch. Really lengthening through that right side. And then from here, bring your hand behind your head. Bring your foot slightly forward so that it's at that front edge of your mat. Plant your foot down, plant your hand down. Bring it underneath your shoulder if your arm ended up escaping away from you. And then reaching through the foot, you're just gonna open the chest up towards the ceiling, and then you're gonna rotate it down towards the floor, but also slightly reaching away. And then open it up towards the ceiling, and then reach away. You can bring your arm long if that's more comfortable, or you want a little bit more stretch, reaching towards that opposite corner of the mat. and then open up towards the ceiling. And then reach and twist. And open. Your hip is kind of a bit of a fixed point here. 2 more. And last one. Okay, bring that foot right back in line with your hip now. Reach that arm overhead, side bend as much as you can, as much as feels good. Feel free to let your head go. And then bring that hand down to the ground. And then bring your right knee underneath you. You're going to take a moment to do one more cat-cow here. Just resetting your spine. And then pause in that nice neutral spine. You're going to extend the left leg back behind you. Bring it over to the inside edge of that left foot. Right leg reaches out to the side. Lift your left arm up towards the ceiling. You are reaching your fingertips up, creating more space, and then bring it up overhead, getting a nice stretch here. Pressing out of that, into the floor, out of that right shoulder, and then bring yourself back down, float that right or left leg up. Draw it in underneath you, round your spine. Flex the foot, reach it back behind you as you extend, and then bring it back in. And extend. 6 more. Starting your breath before you move. Whether you choose to inhale as you round or inhale as you extend is up to you. But just initiating that breath before you begin your movement. Make sure your hips don't slide out from one side to the other. Last one. Drop that leg down. Right foot comes back out to the side. Right hand underneath you, and then reach up and open towards the left. Bring that arm up and over. Get a nice stretch. Keep pressing the ground away, but that right arm is soft. Nice side bend here. And then when you're ready, bring that hand to the head. Bring your left foot forward to the front corner of that mat. And then rotate your spine down and around. Again, if you want to add that arm, reaching, and then open up towards the ceiling. And reach and twist. Again, your hip is more or less a fixed point. Hello, dog. There's a little movement, but not a whole lot here. Three more. 2. Last one. And then bring that hand up towards the ceiling. Bring your left foot in line with your right leg. And then reach that arm overhead and let your head go. Whatever feels nice here. And then come all the way down. Onto all fours again. You're going to walk your hands slightly out in front of your shoulders. And then you're going to send your hips forward. So you're going to find yourself in a nice modified plank here. You're going to bring your hands just a touch narrower than you typically would have your hands in a plank. Tuck that tailbone under, find the reach of your torso. From here, you're going to lengthen or lift the weight out of that left hand, and you're going to float it off the ground. If you can bring it all the way up back by your side, that's great. And if you can extend it all the way overhead, that is awesome too. Keeping those hips square, even if you just have your fingertips on the ground. 3 more breaths. 2. Last one. Bring it all the way down. Send your hips back for a second toward your heels to reset. The closer your knees are underneath you, the easier this will be. However, it's not really easy regardless. And if you want to take it up a notch, you're going to find yourself in a nice wide-legged plank. So here you're going to float that weight off that right hand, bring it underneath you, fingertips, or you can extend that arm all the way. Hips are square to the floor, holding for 10. Make sure you're breathing. And last one, drop that hand down. Lift your hips up into a down dog, regardless of whether you are on your feet or your knees. And then drop your knees, lift the hips up, send your hips back behind you. And then drop down onto your knees. And you're going to come onto your back. Your weights can be by your side here. You will need them eventually, but you don't need them quite yet. We're gonna be down here for a minute or two, so if you're like me and you have a thick ponytail that messes up your alignment, move it out of the way. Your head will be down for most of this. So, nice neutral pelvis here. Check in just like we did when we were standing. Take a moment, close your eyes. Are your hips heavy? Are they tucked under? Do you have more weight in the belly button area? So you're in that pelvic tilt. Or do you have way more weight into your pubic bone and tailbone? So all that low back is missing from the floor. What are your back ribs doing? The backs of your shoulders, are they touching the floor? Are they curling up? Your neck and your head. And then even though your eyes are closed, we're going to pay attention to those in a moment. So find yourself in a nice neutral pelvis. Doesn't look the same for everyone, but more or less when you lift your hips up slightly and you put them down, you want to think that it's pretty level. So you have some of your back on the mat, but you're not pressing your low back into the mat. Your tailbone is heavy, your hips are heavy. And then from here, thinking about your ribs, are they flared open? And if so, is that preventing your back ribs from being on the mat? I find that if I just lift my back up a little and I reset it, I can get a little bit more of that back rib cage on the mat. And then externally rotating through the upper arms, finding that width across the chest, lengthen through the crown of the head. And then again, you can play with your tongue positioning. Similar to your tongue, your eyes kind of do the same thing. So if you open your eyes and you look overhead, you can feel that you start to get that arch in the very top of your cervical spine. If your gaze comes down your nose, you find you get a little bit more length. Your spine will follow your eyes. So from here, you're going to lift the toes on that right foot and you're just going to extend it long. And then from here, feel that length, feel the settling of that femur towards the floor. And then think about pressing that foot gently into the floor. And your hip is nice and heavy on that right side. You're keeping the length through the front of your hip. You're just flexing at the knee, engaging through the hamstring as you bring it back in. We're going to stay on the right side. Extend out to the right. If you prefer to put a sock on and have this slide a little bit easier on the floor, by all means, you can do that. And then drag it back in, really keeping that hip heavy. Think about reaching the sitting bone away as you bring that leg in. And again, extend it out and bring it back in. 3 more. Finding that length through the psoas, which is the muscle that runs down the front of your abdominals, like in the back. And then it connects into the inner thigh, dragging it back in and extend. Good, back in. Switching sides. So plant that right foot down. Left toes lift towards the floor. Find that length as you extend the leg. And then from here, feel your femur kind of settle. Get your hip settle. And then pressing that heel into the ground. Keep reaching that left sitting bone long as you keep the length through the front of your hip. And then you flex at the knee and then the hip at the end. Good. Extending that leg. Reach through the sitting bone. Engaging the hamstring, which will help keep that hip flexor out of it a bit. 4 more. Sliding it out. Toes and knees are pointing right up towards the ceiling. We're going to add a little external rotation in a moment when we switch back to the right side. Last one. Good. Pause here. You're going to let your right leg extend long like we were doing before. From the femur, externally rotate. Your knee is going to come out to the right and you're sort of dragging on that right side of the heel to bring it up and then bring it back in and close it. And then press the left leg out. Open it out to the left. Bring it back in. Make sure now that you're switching sides, you are not tilting the weight from one side of the pelvis to the other. Straight out with that right leg one more time like this. externally rotate, and then drag it back in. Keep thinking about that sitting bone reaching long. Last one like this to the left. You have a pet that you want to give scratches to while you're doing this, highly recommend. And then from here, you're going to let your right knee fall out to the left, or fall out to the right rather, and then extend it long while it's externally rotated, bring it back to parallel, and then pull it back in. We'll just do one more on the right side here, and then we'll do two on the left. Out to the right, really having to counterbalance with that left side, so your hips don't just go all the way out to the right, parallel, and then back in. And then the left side, out to the left. With control, extend it away. Again, this is a little easier to do with socks on. Up towards the ceiling, and then drag it back in. One more. Creating that space. And then out. Ceiling, and then draw it back in. Reach that tailbone long. Good. From here, plant both feet onto the floor. Reach your arms long. And then you're going to tuck the tailbone under, find that low back, gently press into the mat, and then peel yourself all the way up. One vertebrae at a time. Shoulder blades stay on the mat. Walk your feet in a little if you feel like they were too far. Readjust as you need. Collarbone is nice and wide. Shoulders are fully planted on the mat. You're going to peel yourself all the way down. Keep thinking like your pelvis is a little wheel and you're just rolling, rolling, rolling. Like a pasta wheel, I guess, and your torso is the pasta sheet that's coming out. Pause at neutral. Press and lift straight up. Tuck the tailbone under, roll all the way down. And pause, and then again, press straight up. Curl the tailbone under. Find that length through the back body, and then find that crease at the hips as you come to neutral. Press up, curl under, and down. This time we're going to reverse. So, peel the spine all the way up. Pause with the shoulder blades fully on the floor, and then widen your sitting bones as you drop down. And then peel the tailbone up. Find that length and reach through the knees. Drop of the tailbone, and then lower all the way down. And then curl the tailbone under, press and lift up. And then as you're finding that neutral pelvis to lower your hips, think about lowering your hips towards your heels rather than towards your shoulders. And it'll help you from sort of compressing your spine here as you come down. Pause at the top. And you're just going to lower your hips a couple inches, find that little hinge, and then press up. And find that little hinge, and press up. 6 more like this. Keep reaching the knees nice and long. Sort of think heels pull in as the knees reach long. 2. Last one. Pause here at the top. Lift onto the left leg. You're going to float that right leg up. And you're going to hold. You can extend it all the way out if you'd like for 10, 9, 8. Hips stay at the same height. 5, 4, 3, 2. Last one, drop that leg. Square your hips off. And then from here, place that weight into the right side. Float that left leg off. Extend it long, and you're going to hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, keep pressing that right foot into the ground. Hips are open through the front. Reaching long through that right leg. Even if it's on the ground, find that length so that it's like pretending it's still in a bridge. And then lower that leg all the way down. Peel yourself down 1 vertebrae at a time. And then bring your knees into your chest here. Gently rock back and forth from one side to the other. Plant your legs back onto the floor one more time. And then from here, you're going to bring your right leg up to tabletop, and you're going to bring your left leg up to meet it. And then you're going to keep your arms on the ground just to start, and then we'll grab our weights in a second. So you're going to extend your right leg down towards the ground. Think thigh moves away from you, and then resist to bring it back in. Alternating sides. Left leg lowers. Resist to bring it back in. Feel, or pay attention to rather, what's happening through the spine here. Does your chin want to tilt back, do your ribs want to reach off the floor? If that's the case, 1, make sure you're breathing, and then 2, drop your heels and really just concentrate on moving through the femur. Doesn't matter how big of motion you have. One more time to each side. Last one. Good, and then from here, lower the left leg. Bring the right leg into a nice tabletop and grab onto your weight in your left hand. Send that arm straight up towards the ceiling and then let the weight of the weight and the arm sort of pull that arm down so that you're nice and firm on the floor. And you're going to extend your left leg long or right leg long as you extend your left arm overhead. Think like you have an X. So from the armpit all the way over to the opposite inner thigh, and then you're going to bend it in and bring it back together. So you're keeping support through the torso as you extend and then bring them back in. Even though it's the opposite arm and leg, they're working together as a unit. Check in with that left leg, make sure it hasn't fallen out to the side. 3 more. 2, the lower towards the floor your arm and leg go, the more challenging this will be on your abdominals. But don't aim for challenge if you are not keeping your stability here. Last one. Good. And then you're going to drop that leg, bring the weight over to the other side, and then bring your left leg now into tabletop. So left leg, right arm, bring it back up. Again, think about that sling from that right armpit all the way to the left inner thigh and how your body is working together. Make sure your back ribs on that right side haven't started to lift off the floor. Mine want to when I go too far overhead on this side. 3, 2, and last one. Good, pause here. Grab the weight into the left hand. Bring the right arm up. You're going to extend the right arm, left leg. Opposite arm and leg on each side. Doesn't matter which. Pause in the center. You're going to do right arm, right leg. Left arm, left leg. Opposite arm and leg. Little bit of a brain work required. Opposite arm, leg. So we're doing opposite, opposite, same. Keeping your knees in line with your feet. Sorry, knees in line with your hips, knees in line. And then opposite. And opposite. One more time. Same. Same. Good. Pause. Here. Glue your legs together like you have one leg. Drop your knees or drop your heels towards your glutes. You're going to extend your arms overhead as you extend your feet towards the floor, your thighs away from you, and then everything back in. You can come even towards like a little ball. And then again, lower your thighs away, arms overhead. Resist to bring everything back in. 4 more like this. Really think about the hinge at the hip, the lower ribs staying down and connected towards the hips. 2. And using your breath. Your range of motion is your range of motion. Last one. Good, pause here. Curl the head, neck, and shoulders up. Shoulders are nice and heavy. Bring the legs to tabletop. Extend the arms and legs overhead and out, and then bring everything in. You can drop your weights at any time if you need. Extend. And bring it in. Head, neck, and shoulders stay off the floor, and bring it in. Gaze is at your knees or your thighs. Low back is gently pressing into the mat. 2 more. Last one. Pause here. Arms in line with your shoulders or slightly in front of them. Opposite arm and leg. Head stays lifted. Both arms, both legs. In, opposite arm and leg. Only doing this one more time, both arms and legs. In. Right arm, left leg. Opposite arm, opposite leg on the other side. Both. Bring everything in. And then lower all the way down. Drop your weights. And then gently rock back and forth from one side to the other. Grab on behind the thighs. And then think about gently reaching the legs towards the shoulders. Just take a second here. And then you're going to bring your left leg long, and you're going to grab onto your right leg with both hands, holding on at the shin. Reach long through the heel on that left leg. Think about opening up. Think that someone is gently pressing your femur, grounding it into the floor. That right leg is still kind of reaching knee towards your armpit. And then bring this right leg across. Make half cactus arm with that right side, with that right arm, and look over your right shoulder. And then coming back, bring both knees into your chest again, hold on behind the thighs. Just take a second here. Again, reaching them towards your shoulders. And release the low back. Also, just make sure you don't have a ton of tension in your shoulders here. And then when you're ready, extend the right leg long. Left leg's going to keep reaching towards your shoulder, but you're going to extend and grab that right leg, grab onto the left with both hands. Reach through the heel. Imagine someone is there, or you can even use your own hand to ground that right leg, reaching in opposition. And then make a half goal post with that left arm. And then reach the outside of the thigh on the left leg as you pull it across. Gaze over your left arm. Good. And then from here, you are going to roll onto your stomach. So here is the point where you can use your weights or you can skip them, even more so than before. Of course, they're always optional, but this does get a touch spicy. So you are going to lay down on your stomach. I'm just going to move my mat out of the way so that I have space to bring my arms out to the side. And you are going to bring your weights overhead in a V-like position. So when your arms are extended, they will be in a V. So you're going to start with your hands right underneath your shoulders. I know that you can't see because there's a dog in your way. Let me slide him out of the way. Oh no, my way. Sorry, difficult setup today. All right, so hands right underneath your shoulders. Your feet are pointed gently and about as wide as your mat, slightly wider than hip distance. And then again, just like we've done twice now before in class, check in. Is your nose gently grazing off the ground, reaching forward through the crown of your head? Even though your ribs and hips are pressing into the floor, they're gently like trying to draw away. Like they're settled, but not aggressively pressing into the floor. Get a little bit of length through the tailbone, a little reach through the toes, and some heaviness through the thighs. Your legs are not going to pick up to start. Hands are underneath your shoulders. You're going to wrap your elbows in. You're just going to press your hands into the floor as you slide up, lengthening through the crown of your head in the front of your chest, and then float the hands up, and then lower the hands down, and lengthen your spine all the way down. We're going to do 2 more like that. Inhale as you lift. You don't have to come up very high. And then float the hands up, lower the hands down, and lower the torso. 2 more. Make sure that your abdominals are not puffing into and pressing into the floor. Exhale before you lift. And then lower all the way down. From here, you're going to bring your hands onto your weights. And your head is going to just be floating off of the mat. You want to really have that tuck through the tailbone to sort of counteract the lift of your arms. So you're going to lift your arms up into a Y shape here, pull them back into a W. You're going to pause with them in a W. You're going to extend them out, punch through the knuckles to extend the arms long into a T. Bend your hands back, palms still facing the floor, and then extend them overhead, find that Y. Drop them down. Keep the head gently lifted. Lengthen through the crown of the head so your neck is nice and long. Lift those weights up again. Inhale. Exhale first, and then lift. Draw them back, find your W. Extend your arms, find your T. Draw them back in, find your W. And then feel your shoulder blades gently widen away from your spine as you lengthen overhead and lower down. 3 more times. And this is where I said it is intense, so drop the weights at any point if you need. Go at your own pace. Neck is nice and long. Inhale. Exhale first. Then float them up. Draw them back into the Y. Palms stay facing the floor as you extend them out to that T. Draw them back into the Y, or W rather, and then extend them overhead. Exhale. Drop them down. Inhale here. Check in with your pelvis. Exhale, lift. Draw them into the W. Extend them out. Bring them back in. And then overhead. And then lower all the way down. Last time. Inhale. Exhale. Draw them back as you finish that exhale. Punch them out to the side. Exhale, bring them back in. Pause in your W. Inhale. Exhale. Overhead. Lower them all the way down. Make a pillow for your head. Shake your hips from one side to the other. And then bend at the knees and then windshield wiper your feet from one side to the other. Good. Pause here. Extend your legs long one more time. Bring your hands back underneath your shoulders. And here, if you'd like, grab your weights one more time. So we're just going to go straight up into that W position with the upper body. Lift the upper body and then exhale. Bring the arms up. You're going to float the legs up, reach long through the toes, and you're going to go to a T and back to a W. And then you're going to rotate your palms up towards the ceiling and reach them back behind you. And then you're going to bend them back to the W, out to a T. Keeping those legs lifted if you can. W, palms toward the ceiling, lift back. Bring them to the W, and out. We're doing 3 more. Back in, palms to the ceiling. Keep lifting through the palms. Arms are straight. Back to your W, palms to the floor. To your T, to your W, to your little rocket position. Pause here, hold, lift the chest a tiny bit higher if you can. The arms a little bit higher, but the whole arm, not just the hand. For 3, 2, 1. Lower all the way down to the floor. Drop your weight, shake your hips, put your cheek to the floor in either direction, and then bend at the knees and windshield wiper from one side to the other. And then lower the legs all the way down. Pull your weights all the way out to the side. You do not need them anymore. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Tuck the toes under if you would like to. If not, press the knees into the floor. Inhale. Exhale. Press the floor away. Find yourself in a nice plank. And then back into a down dog or child's pose if you've had enough. We are going to end with a couple of push-ups. But we're going to do a nice Pilates push-ups in sets of 3. So we're going to do 3 sets of 3 to end. From this down dog, uncurl yourself. Find your plank, kneeling or on your toes, your choice. Either way, that tailbone is gently tucked, length through the torso. Elbows gently back by your side. 3, 2, last one. Lift the hips up, find your down dog. And then walk your hands back to your feet. And we're gonna round all the way up, one vertebrae at a time. Pause at the top. Lift the arms up overhead. Hinge at the hips as you dive forward. Walk yourself out for 3, 2, 1, and then 3 push-ups. Make sure you're exhaling before you press up. Lift the hips up. Pause here in your nice down dog for a second. And then when you're ready, walk your hands back. Take a second to hang like a ragdoll. Then again, peel yourself all the way up. Lift the arms up overhead. And then round all the way down. And walk yourself out. Last 3 push-ups here. And then we're going to end with a nice little side stretch for 3, 2, and last one. Hips lift. Drop your head, shake it out. And then think about lengthening through the waist. And then drop your knees down, but make them nice and wide. Bring the toes together. Press the floor away as you sit the heels back towards your glutes, or your glutes back by your heels rather. And then you're gonna walk your hands over to the right and then press your left hand down, but bring your right hand back behind you and press both hands into the floor to try to get a little bit of a twist open towards the right, lowering that left shoulder and armpit towards the floor to get a nice stretch through that whole shoulder as well as your side. And then bring your right hand to meet your left and then press your hips over to the left. As you press the floor away with both hands, getting a bigger side stretch here. And then walk yourself over to the other side, planting your right hand, bring your left hand back by your side, and then open up towards the right, towards the left rather, as you send your right shoulder towards the floor. Twisting open for that nice shoulder stretch. This little spot between your shoulder blades is alive. Sorry. Also, you're welcome. Good, and then bring both hands together. Press the floor away, send your hips over to the right. And then come back to the center. Plant your elbows on the floor, stack one hand on top of the other, and then reach that hand back towards that spot that maybe got to work today that doesn't work that often. Keep thinking about reaching the elbows away as you sink your heels back for that nice bicep stretch. You can swap what hand is on top too if you'd like. And then reach your arms long. Think about melting your chest towards the floor. Take one more big inhale. Feel your ribs expand in all the different directions. And slowly peel yourself up one vertebrae at a time as you find yourself sitting on your heels. And then just take a second, like we did in the beginning of class. Close your eyes and just see where your sort of posture naturally wants to go to. Think about finding a little bit of width from the outsides of the shoulders, opening through the collarbone. Tailbone is nice and heavy. And then float your eyes open, and you're all finished.